but it is time to hit social media for our hashtag segment. For that, we'd like to welcome in Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and we have Fast Market contributor Jenny Horn with us as well here in studio, and we're going to talk some Disney.
Disney ahead of earnings. Yes, this is a name that's kind of had this revival ever since Disney Plus. And of course, this will be the first earnings report since the Disney Plus launched. There were some big numbers that came out of this launch. They originally had 10 million subscribers within their first day. And of course, this was great news for Disney's stock, but something we never really talk about is the fact that they still make majority of their revenue from their parks. So it's like Disney Plus gets all of this kind of glory, but it's still not the way they make most of their money. And it's actually interesting how they differ from a Netflix. They don't have this crazy cash burn with their content because if you've been on Disney Plus, it's mostly old content. It's like Pocahontas and Mulan and all this stuff for kids that's been around for 30 years.
You know, it's interesting. This is an interesting earnings play for Disney because of like the close of the Shanghai Disney is this quarter. It's not last quarter, right? And there's a lot of things going on. I think everything that we can talk about at Disney, they're going to want to know subscriber numbers for Disney Plus, and they're going to want to know the operating expenses or losses for Disney Plus. How fast is this growing? I think there's an over/under in this range of between 20 and 30 million that they need to hit in terms of subscribers. And I think nothing else matters, frankly.
And are they actually making any money off Disney Plus? But
I think they'll be operating losses from Disney Plus, but you want those to be minimal, obviously.
Absolutely, but Disney Plus is, of course, the name that catches everyone's eye on social media this morning. So our first tweet says, just once I would like Disney to pull a Tesla tomorrow after earnings. Disney Plus has 25 million subscribers with Hulu, ESPN Plus, billion-dollar revenue from movies like Frozen 2, Star Wars, and now has the rights to the Hamilton movie. Theme parks, merch, and so much more. We'll take anything over 160. So Landon, I'm really curious because I mentioned, of course, there was 10 million subscribers in the first day. Has there been a bit of I mean, the hype now has kind of come off because now it's been around for a few months. Have you seen that at all in your data?
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. And, you know, to your point about what's important to Disney, yes, we know that Disney has a lot of other things, and Disney Plus is a small piece of it. But for the most part, all of the other information, like the parks and whatnot, aside from the Shanghai closing, for the most part, that's all known, and Disney Plus is sort of the new unknown, and that's where I think investors see that they could gain some leverage on the market. And you'll see here on this chart, you've got a huge spike on the launch. I mean, this is one of the most successful product launches LikeFolio has ever seen. And I think that had a lot to do with the way that they rolled it out. They hyped it up with The Mandalorian. They paired with Verizon. They did a lot of things right. They could teach a class on how to launch a product. Now, the big spike came in, and as you can see, it's been pulling off ever since. Of course, a lot of people got on initially right away, but now Disney is less than half. Disney Plus is about less than half of what Netflix is. But when you add in Hulu, which they own a majority stake of and will soon own all of, they're actually larger than Netflix as far as people talking about joining or subscribing to those services. So huge spike from Disney. But one of the things that we saw, to your point about all the old content, is a lot of people got in there. They loved it for a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. They watched all those shows, and now they're like, okay, now what? You know, they ran through the first season of Mandalorian. There's nothing new coming out. And so they're starting to cancel their services, and they just kind of, you know, did it real quick, and they're out again. So I think things like Hamilton coming on is big for Disney. They have to get into content creation if they're going to get and keep subscribers. Yeah, Landon, I think this Hamilton thing's interesting because some of the news things you read today, oh, they paid too much for Hamilton. Stop. $75 million for Hamilton. Everyone thinks that's too much. They paid $4 billion for Star Wars. And when they did that, the first movie they put out made $2.5 billion. They're going to extend this, turn it into a big thing. I mean, $75 million, when you paid $4 billion for Star Wars, $75 million seems awfully cheap. And doubting Disney's ability to turn this into a profitable endeavor is absurd. But I still think, Landon, you guys hear any numbers on the subscribers? Because I think 20 million, less than 20 million will be considered a loss. Obviously, over 30 million will be considered a big win. But in between there is when it gets dicey. Yeah, well, first to your point about Hamilton and Star Wars, you can't really compare those two things. One is just a legendary thing that changed the world, in my nerdy opinion, and then there's Hamilton. But you're right, they did leverage Star Wars, and they made half their investment back on the first movie, and they're killing it now. But I think that the way they did it, I think, they rolled out a lot of films very quickly, and some of them were sort of ho-hum, like Solo and Last Jedi, I think didn't do so great. And they had to really figure it out and get better films out there. They realized that you can't just slap Star Wars on anything and throw it out and get a good review. But they're doing a good job of getting people in the door, and it's just a matter of leveraging that. So I don't have any numbers on subscribers. We've got a lot of data coming in showing that a ton of people signed up, but they're kind of put off by the fact that all these movies that they've seen them, 10 or 15 years ago, and maybe they'll rewatch them a couple of times, but it's the new content that keeps people coming. And I think Netflix has figured that out. They do a fantastic job of re-releasing things or coming out with new seasons at the end of the year when people are thinking about trimming their wallet and their renewal subscriptions. And so I think Disney's going to have to do a good job of starting to create more content. Hamilton is a step in the right direction. I'm not worried at all about the $75 million. I'm sure they'll do they'll do very well on leveraging that. Yeah, I think that it's all about getting the new content coming in so people have a reason to stay.
I think that's a really good point, Landon. And clearly, I mean, to your first point, Disney Plus is the new potential growth engine for Disney. The stock price the performance has completely agreed with that. On the announcement, we saw a huge move up. I have a 3-year weekly chart pulled up on the platform that would illustrate that, and you can see some of these big moves. But I want to come back to the comparison of kind of a Netflix to Disney, and the idea of it's kind of recycled content in a way for Disney if they can't create something. But I would say the bundle of Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus is likely going to be your closest alternative to traditional cable outside of like a Sling TV or something. So what are your numbers? I don't see Disney or ESPN Plus rather on this comparison. How is ESPN Plus doing in terms of consumer purchase intent mentions with them getting huge events like the Conor McGregor fight, which I believe was the second biggest UFC or MMA pay-per-view of all time?
Yeah, and the dollars per second of that viewing was incredible. Would that fight last about 10 seconds? That was nuts. But yeah, I think the ESPN's doing fantastic. I think that's probably Disney's strongest as far as new content because sports changes every day. So they're doing very well with that. They're doing very well with Hulu. And like you said, I think that is the closest competitor to traditional cable. And I think also this is all going to hurt Netflix because people are starting to pull their content from Netflix and create their own streaming platforms. Everybody's doing it. So now it's going to be who owns it and who's creating it. And Disney has a huge, huge arsenal between ESPN and all of the Star Wars and Marvel comics and all those movies. I mean, they're going to be able to churn out content. It's just a matter of time before that engine gets going and they can pull all that content away from other providers like Netflix. They're getting Marvel off of that and going to get it on the Disney Plus platform. Then I think they'll do a fine job of keeping subscribers. I really think that this current quarter may be overblown as far as importance. Yes, it's the current one. We need to know how well that did. But I think it's all about their ability to create content in the future, and I have a lot of confidence in Disney's ability.
I really think that the studios are one to really pay attention to because they're going to put up a big number. I mean, Jenny, can you talk about Frozen 2 without getting emotional?
No, I can't. You started saying the word Frozen, I got excited. I know. I saw it twice in theaters, and I'm an adult, so I can't talk about it.
Frozen 2 is for young females is a life-changing event that cannot be underappreciated.
Yes, I
exactly.
completely agree. Wow,
Yes.
Kevin, I love that. Our next tweet is from Zach Berger, who says, it's starting to look like Disney will make the expected move before earnings are released. So I'm considering removing half my position into earnings if we run to 145 intraday tomorrow. So excited to see the subscribers for Disney Plus and hoping June 170s are realistic. So again, we talk about this keyword subscribers, which it seems like we all can't stop saying. It's like kind of the most important thing, seems like, with Disney Plus. So Landon, I really want to know though, how does happiness with Disney Plus compare to, say, a Netflix or a Hulu, which I guess is the same company, or I mean, what else is there? There's HBO, there's Apple TV Plus, there's Amazon Prime TV. How does it compare? Because you mentioned that the turnover has been really high, so that must impact the consumer's happiness.
It does impact it. And when it comes to what negative comments are coming in, it's almost all about the lack of new content, and that's it. It's not about the service itself or the content. It's just about the lack of new content. And when we compare happiness, actually, Disney Plus is at the top. They're higher than Netflix. They're higher than their subsidiary, Hulu. They're higher than Amazon. I think they're at 76%, which is very strong. The only negative stuff, and we pulled a lot of tweets to verify this, it's all talking about no new content. I've ran through Mandalorian. All right, I watched Frozen, and I'm done now. I'll go watch Frozen 2 a few times, that kind of thing. But once they're done, and they're starting to cancel. So I think it will be easy to win those people back once they start creating new content. But as a whole, the content that's on there and the service is doing very well with happiness. It's just lack of new content. That's the next step for Disney. Kind
of a follow-up on that, Landon. You follow a lot of different products, especially at launch. Some products obviously more successful than others. This one coming from a position of strength. Does happiness typically deteriorate as these products become more mature?
Yeah, it usually does. As people come into the market, it does tend to go towards 50%. But we saw a very high spike with Disney initially. Of course, people are very excited to go in and watch their old favorites. It has kind of normalized now, and I think the range that we're at now, 76% versus Netflix's 73%, is right around in line where you want to be. And their happiness is going to fluctuate as they come out with new content. If the next Star Wars movie is great, it'll go up. If the next Avengers movie is bad, it'll go down, that kind of thing. But all in all, the platform itself and how it's used, people like it. There's no problems with the UI or anything like that.
And as we kind of tie this all together here, Landon, coming back to Zach's tweet, it looks like a lot of people are kind of in the same boat as this stock opened about 145 and has kind of drifted lower ever since the open. But from LikeFolio's standpoint, all the data you're monitoring, and obviously there's a lot of parts with Disney, how confident are you in this stock's performance around this earnings event?
Well, so it's basically $10 off all-time highs, but it's been fairly flat since I think 10 months or so. It's been fairly flat, up and down a little bit, but it hasn't gone up with the market as much as it could have. And so if the market is going to be surprised by an amazing launch of Disney Plus, which I'm not sure they will be, but if they are, then I think this could definitely take off. And I think it really comes down to just understanding that the parks are the parks, and what they have is sort of known. And then if it comes down to Disney Plus, then we've got nothing but really good numbers out of Disney Plus. So I think that we're bullish here, but we don't cover Disney as a whole, so we don't know how all the parks are doing individually. We just know how Disney Plus is doing, and obviously very strong launch.
All right, good stuff, Landon. You see some upside surprise potential with some of your numbers. We'll see what actually happens here, but thanks to Landon for joining us this morning, and thanks to Jenny as well.